All right. Welcome everybody back to another episode of Proof of Vision. Fantastic episode today. We had Prashant, the founder of Spheron Network, on to talk about Spheron and the decentralized marketplace that they've built for GPU and CPU. If you are a DePIN fan, this episode is for you. They have, in my opinion, built a very, very sophisticated model, but also kind of abstracting away, that complexity at the same time to make it simple for GPU and CPU providers that want to maybe earn, income, on their units to be able to participate in the ecosystem. They've thought of creative ways for regular people like me to get involved with certain products that they've built on top of their marketplace and the GPU power in the marketplace. So really great conversation overall. We talk about the state of the DePIN market a little bit. And really, I think the biggest thing was, Prashant seemed to really, and the rest of the team seemed to really value, the community. They're thinking about, trying to make sure that the tokenomics make sense, and that ultimately they're driving value back to the community that is also giving them value. So that really stood out to me in this episode. So really hope you guys enjoy it. Obviously, if you do, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next episode of Proof of Vision. Thanks. All right. Welcome, everybody, back to another excellent episode of Proof of Vision. We are live with Prashant. He's the founder of Spheron Network. How are you?
I'm good, Kirk, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a beautiful sunny day here where I'm at. Hopefully it's the same for you.
No, it's night. I'm in Dubai, so it's
there you go. Dedication. Dedicated to the game here. See, it's already good for users listening to this. If you've got your team working all hours of the night to ship a podcast with me, then they're dedicated to their craft. So good signals only. But no, thanks for coming on. Excited to hear about what you guys have been building. Before we start, though, can you tell the listeners how you got into crypto? What was your background, prior to getting into it? And then kind of how did you discover, crypto, and what made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I think my background goes a long way because it's a very long thread I have to explain, but I'll keep it cut it very short so that people can understand. So I don't come from very fancy colleges, universities, or anything like that. I built myself up like from where I was in one of the colleges, which was tier 3 earlier, then it went to tier 2 now. I don't know, like it's tier 1 now. It became over the years. My college also evolved with me when I had, I think so. So that's how it all started. Till my graduation, I was not even aware about how, like, what are the things I can build with technology. So I had a zero clue. I was like pure North Indian a kid. When we say North Indian kid, like, they're more to the face. They like go more business oriented and all of those side, but not into tech. so that's my journey. And nobody was in my family also, like no one was in tech at all. I was the first kid like who got into it, and I had zero knowledge about what I'm doing. Honestly, like I'll be very honest and straight on this. Is like I really had zero knowledge about what I was doing. But yeah, I think the life takes its own bits and pieces to create you what you are, like what you become down the line. And I allowed life to kind of do its own thing, and I kind of just followed that path, whatever it just asked me to do. So I started my career in a call center first, like hardly around $100 or $150 per month salary. Then somehow I realized this is not the place where I wanted to be, and then from there I jumped to Bangalore. From Bangalore, I went to different places and started learning coding, tons of other things which happened in my life. And 4 year later, from 2015 to 2019, I was working with the Siemens healthcare solution as their lead design engineer there. And the best part was, like, I was learning and coding. I was doing some things which a lot of people were not even doing. So I kind of evolved in a coding journey, and I kind of like learned everything foundationally that's how my journey kind of started. Now coming back to crypto, I can go on and on because there are a lot of things happen in between, but I'll just summarize it. So this is what happened. What was my background? Now coming back to like how I ended up in crypto. Again, it's a very short story. Met my co-founder. He brought me here in crypto. He was doing something, and I was working with him in the startup. That startup got acquired by the other company. And then we were like, okay, what shall we do? He was like, let's do crypto. I was like, what is this? Because it's a scam, right? And that's what I have heard so far. And that's how my journey started. But when I started looking into, because I come from solution background, so essentially when I say solution background, you give me a problem, I break that problem into smaller problems, and I try to solve it independently, understand it in the bottom of it. So that's what my forte is actually. And when I started looking into crypto, I was like very fascinated about the theory of because I always go like I have this mindset of freedom, of like going in a very different direction, take a different path. I'll make the world a more free place to move around. Because in my journey, career of my life, what I have faced, very tough. I think most of the Indian kids also face, not even Indian, I think most of the developing countries, they face these things, is like there's a huge information arbitrage which exists. And the reason that information arbitrage today exists is because there is a huge capital gap, right? And that capital is information. So you can only buy information if you have capital. But if you don't, then you end up in just doing nothing, right? You end up in just a normal guy into the street. So but crypto avoids that. Crypto enables everyone to have that information created openly, readily available out there. The capital efficiency is great. You can always get paid from like anywhere around the world, no matter. But the only thing which requires is skill, which we can always get it from YouTube or all of these places which are out there, right? So which I kind of love the concept, and then that's how we kind of like ended up in crypto. That's how I ended up crypto. Like started my journey as a hacker first. Like we participated in kernel, did a lot of bounties with my co-founder, won a lot of bounties actually, and tons of things which we have done. At point of time, like we had sold a lot of Ethereum at very like around $90. If I would not have sold, then I might have been millionaire by now and not doing this what we have been doing. But joking aside, like this is our passion, what we do. But that's how our journey. So we started as a hacker in this space, and when we speak, when we build whatever we build into the space, we build from foundation. We understand the foundation. We just don't speak. We know the breadth and the depth of crypto, and that's why we chose to kind of build what we're building today.
Awesome. It's a great origin story. Definitely resonated with me. Like, not exactly the same journey as you, obviously, but like the whole concept of just, I don't have a finance background either. I never had a crypto background, obviously. I was doing something completely different. And then I stumbled upon crypto, and it was kind of like the same thing. I was like, wow, this is something that I need to do. This is something I have to do, right? And it's just funny how many people, crypto is probably like the most unique industry when it comes to that, where like, you can break into it without having any kind of prerequisites on your resume. I mean, you really can, right? You just have to be able to grind and really put your head down and learn, and be a sponge, right? And so it's awesome to hear that. Obviously, just on the topic of like India, right? Like heard a lot. There's a lot of founders in the space with kind of like similar journeys, through India, right? Like the Polygon team, for example. So definitely a lot of grind stories coming out. That's what I like to call them. A lot of grinders coming out of India, especially on the developer side that are building like, amazing products. So fantastic. And the last thing I'll say about your intro, for anybody listening that is upset about their ETH price and their ETH bags, at least somebody else has sold, much lower than you. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and then after that, I never sold any ETH. So far, I'm sitting on ETH only. But I'm a big fan of Ethereum as well, because it has shaped my life as such. So whatever people say in the world, no matter what happens, so I'm just gonna be holding it tight. Yep. The only reason is because of the belief and everything, and what it had brought to my life and career. So yeah, I think ETH has done a great thing for a lot of people in this space.
Absolutely. talk about diamond hands there. That's a diamond hands theory. Okay, cool. So like, let's transition then into Spheron, right? Let's talk about what you guys are building. Explain the concept to me and to the listeners, and let's talk about the business case for it.
Yeah, sure. I think I have already explained that bit while during my introduction itself. So essentially, when I talked about the information arbitrage, right, the same also exists in the computer space also, right? Now, imagine you have to innovate today, and you don't have enough capital like what other people like. Understand this: like every places in the world has a different capital efficiency and different capital risk capital which is available easily. For example, if you go to some developing countries, the risk capital is not as high. Like you cannot just expect anyone to just give you $1,000 and you just go and play around with that and just throw that $1,000 like that. It's not at all exist. That concept itself doesn't exist. Okay. While if you go to undeveloped countryside, you have this opportunity where people will be more than happy to fund you to pursue your passion or give you $1,000 to go ahead and do whatever you wish to as a grant money or just a free money to go ahead and do that. Now, in both the cases, the talent the talent is not lacking anywhere in both the sides, right? The only thing which is lacking is the compute which they need to have. It's similar like book. Okay, so for example, the book which you read has more profound and more practical implementation of the things versus the book which I read, it just talks about only theory, right? And later down the line you realize, okay, whatever I just read, it's all bullshit, right? There's nothing which something like this basically exists. So then people start questioning around the education system and everything, but that's a very different thing. But the same happens on the compute as well. If you don't have a compute today, you are no one, essentially, right? You literally are no one. So what the core vision of this Spheron was like, how can we build the world's largest data center? When I say world largest data center, is like, because data center is a very closest concept which people relate to, but we wanted to build it by and for the community. Okay, so essentially it's a democracy, or it's a permissionless, decentralized compute infrastructure which allows anyone to contribute the computing power and allows anyone to rent out that computing power without any kind of middle ground, like without any question asked. It's like today, if you go to Spheron, you can just go ahead and lease out compute. We don't ask you any questions till the time you are following the laws. You are not into the list of those blacklisted wallets and all of those things. That's a very different thing which you should never do. But apart from that, we are building that rail of the tech where people can easily trade their compute. Now, the question which I always hear is that, why do you guys building? Like, why is it even a problem? Like, people really want to use my compute, which is in your system, or people are gonna be like using data center system which are much more stable. Why would somebody like use it, right? So while we were designing Spheron, we designed in two ways. The one is like, we built it for startups and businesses where they should be able to come and lease out data center grade GPUs and servers. We have different system altogether for them. And the other, which we have built for public goods, because a lot of time in crypto, we always forget, is like the whole intent of the crypto is to allow people to go and build public goods so that more and more people can participate and community funds can come into the picture and we all can just build a better future down the line. And that's where the community compute comes to the picture at Spheron. Now, now coming back to the same question is like, are those community compute even is usable or even can be used or not? Then let me give you a very classic example. If you are running an agent today or any small language models, you can run it on your local machine. If you have a MacBook device, you can run it very seamlessly. It just works. But a lot of people in this world don't have MacBook device. Right? A lot of people don't even own MacBook devices. A lot of people even don't own high-end devices which has more than 16 GB of RAM or like 24 GB of RAM. But the question comes into the picture, today they don't have, tomorrow they will be having. Yes, they will be having. But what if I don't want to burn my device right now? Because I cannot run 10 different systems, 10 different things on my own device. I need to lease out my friend device to do something. I can lease out Kirk device to do something. So that's where Spheron community cloud system comes into the picture. It's like we allow people to share this compute as effortlessly as possible. And I always go by saying this is, if I ask Kirk today to give his laptop to me today, he might hesitate to give it because there's no incentive for him to giving it to me. right? He will say, okay, why do you need it? Okay, I can only give you for 1 hour. But what if I pay you for that? Then you'll be more than happy to give it, because anyways, it's just sitting idle. There's nothing which you are doing in that system. Why can't we just give it to Prashant, right? So that's what we enable at Spheron. Like, we allow you to basically tokenize your compute unit, go ahead into the Spheron, put that into it, and allow your computation power to be leased by somebody else who might be needing it. And it can be anyone, okay? It can be a developer, it can be a user, it can be a model runner, it can be anyone. Now, our long-term vision is that as we evolve as a AI industry, what we are going to witness is there are a lot of small language models which are going to get built. When I say small language models, it's like there is a very dedicated models to everyone, all right? And these dedicated model doesn't require fancy GPUs to run or fancy machines to run. It can be run on local machines as well. Even today as well, there are a lot of models which can run on your local machines. So these machines can be very, very useful for these things. That's one thing. Second thing, what we have built proprietary at Spheron is the networking layer of it, right? So today with this Spheron, you can combine these machines together. Let's say I want to deploy a Ray cluster. I want to combine this machine together and basically do a inferencing on top of it. You can go ahead and do that. The third is like, hey, Prashant, I just want to go ahead and bootstrap my, there's some interesting research use cases I'm kind of working on. We need a lot of compute to do it. Let's say I want to scrape a lot of data. I want to do tons of different things, right? But you don't want data center IP addresses to come into the picture. You can go to Spheron and you have this massive pool of compute. You can just go ahead and use it, right, out of the box. And the best part about all of those things is everything's P2P. So essentially what happens, like if somebody uses your machine, they just pay you. They don't pay us. Yes, we do charge certain commissions in between, which is where our business exists. But that's how it works today at Spheron. And that's what the whole vision and the core philosophy of Spheron, and where are we heading towards into the journey.
This episode is brought to you by Pendle. Pendle is a leading protocol in the DeFi yield sector, operating as a permissionless yield trading protocol, facilitating the tokenization and splitting of any yield-bearing assets in DeFi. This allows users to speculate on future yield or earn a fixed rate on their assets. Learn more at pendle.finance. Gotcha. Yeah, no, fascinating. So, I think a lot of the kind of like the DePIN, networks and applications that I've seen so far, for compute, they're highly dependent on token subsidies. So, they're using the token to kind of subsidize the supply, for people to come and supply their compute into the network. Your model sounds more like you said, it's peer-to-peer, right? So like the end user is paying for that compute. So in this marketplace, if I want to rent compute today, am I able to do that and pay with any token, or do I have to pay with stable coins? Like what does that look like on like the peer-to-peer marketplace? How does that all work?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that, but I'd love to extend it a little bit so that it becomes easier for your audience also to understand is like why we have designed in a very different way. So in Spheron, you can pay in whatever token you wish to. Like, we don't restrict you, but we do restrict that what is the liquidity of the token which exists, and depending on that, you can go ahead and raise the governance, which is not there yet, but down the line we will have a governance and everything. So you can raise a governance and you can enable any token as a payment token. It can be Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever, right? That's one thing. Second thing is that why we wanted to, as you have mentioned, is like there are a lot of DePIN projects exist in the market today, and they enforce you to use their own token and everything. Now, it is a lost opportunity for them, honestly, because their token might not be reasonably accessible in different countries and different jurisdictions, right? For example, if you come to UAE or if you come to India, there are even you go to Europe, you will not, because the crypto laws are very different in all of these places, and most likely your token might not be available to trade or even buy in these jurisdictions, right? So you are essentially losing out the entire market segment for not even capturing it, right? The better option is that why to enforce your token to the user front? Why can't we just enforce that token to the supply front and in between somewhere where your token can play a very vital role? I think that's where I love the model of exchanges. Binance is one, which has really shown the potential into how buyback and all of this mechanism can really work and outshine a lot of things over the long period of time. and also stabilize the price as well. And then there are other models as well, like GMX and all of these guys, like who came up with different models of providing the liquidity. But if you combine all of these models together, you will be able to figure it out a very nice model which can using which a DePIN can easily exist, right? And without over subsidizing, without overkilling, or without overdoing any of those things. So that's where Spheron. So in Spheron, if you ever go and use today, like what you will find is like you have to deposit 100 USDC, and we give you 20 USDC from our side, like 20 U SPON from our side today. And then essentially that's how we are subsidizing. We are not saying that you don't pay us and we pay you all the money, you just use it. No, that's not what we want. That's never ever our philosophy is, right? We want user to understand the game, and if you love this GPU and you want to access that, you have to pay for it, right? That's one thing. Second thing is like, yes, I do agree, like initial phase, we have to spend more capital to bootstrap the demand and everything. And for that, we already have this U SPON, which is already there. Like basically it's a pegged USD SPON, which works inside the Spheron network, which will be again issued to the providers to become the part of the governance and become the eligible to the ecosystem, right? So that's how Spheron is there. Now coming back to summarizing your question as an answer, yes, today Spheron can accept any token out there in the market. And the best part is that you don't even need to launch a new marketplace altogether or new compute platform altogether to just bootstrap the again same supply side. What you can easily do is like you go to Spheron, you just enable your token, and then you get all this Spheron supply out of the box without even investing or raising millions of dollars from your VC and burning it for doing nothing.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I agree with the ethos of that as well, because like that's one of the pitfalls that I see a lot, with the DePIN, the bootstrapping phase, at least, right? With the DePIN is just that, I feel like there's so much supply being given away, and the last thing you want is for your token to become like sushi, right? Where like it's just this farm token, everybody's dumping it, on your head, without some offsetting like supply sinks, right, and some offsetting utility, and I think that. A lot of the DePIN projects have thought about that actually that I've seen, but like I always worry about that. And it sounds like you guys have modeled that as well, for your network, which is fantastic. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about, the application of Spheron, and AI. And obviously there's been a lot of hype. And then, the hype kind of died down a little bit here, along with, price action, just like everything does in crypto. Price is down, sentiment is down. But crypto and AI, have, in my mind, a very bright future. It's just a matter of figuring out the right model, and trying to figure out how we can, perfect, the system. So maybe talk about, like Spheron's role in AI and how you see the AI landscape right now with crypto.
I think the future of AI is going to be crypto. That's for sure. Like there's no if and but into it. It may not be visible to a lot of people now, but it will be visible later down the line. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's very simple, is that crypto is only payment method in the world today, which can stream payment without any mediator, right? So essentially like you don't require banking systems to kind of like go ahead and do that. And all of those banking payment gateways and all of those things are designed for humans. They are not designed for agents. That's one thing. When I say agents, like you cannot just use that because they have Cloudflare API and then they have to go through that human checks and all of those. It's a pain. Okay. While in crypto, it's not. Like we have been designed from day one, knowing like anyone can do the transaction. Like anyone has a private key, they can execute a transaction, it can be done. Or anyone has a signature of anything, they can do a transaction. I think it's the craziest thing which we have, right? And nobody can beat us into that. The second thing is that the streaming of the money. You can stream whatever amount you want to whatever people and whatever agent you want, even it is fraction of the cost. Like you don't even have to pay $10 to Western Union or any other banks out there into the world just to transfer $1 account. So essentially you're paying transferring $11 just to pay the $10, like $1. Which crypto basically solves. So there is no way that banking systems can achieve the same level of efficiency, because, and again, the reason they can't even achieve that efficiency is because of multiple reasons. They have very high OPEX, they have all of these systems which are already there. We are completely digital. So we run at 1/100th of cost what this banking system might be running. So we will always be efficient than them in all the scenarios. So that's a part of the AI. Like there is no question of crypto being used into the AI landscape. Now coming into the hyponomics, which I think you have touched a little bit on that, is like hype in the crypto. Yes, I think crypto is known for hypes, and I think I always look at crypto more of I don't call it out openly, but I just look at like a lot of people who come here, they think is like it's a permissionless Las Vegas where where you come and play the poker and go out and all of those stuff. But that's not really the truth. Behind this, every economy, when they scale or build, there is always a darker side of it. You cannot have any economy in the world. Like just name me one economy which you have seen in the world which has been developed today, be it USA, be it anything out there. They have done darker things to be there where they are, and they have not done it intentionally. It just happens whenever any transition happens, right? Every at least in our world, there's no war which is happening, but in the world, if you look at the power dynamics, how it works, whenever there is a war happens, there is a power dynamic shift happens. So that's at least not happening in crypto. That's what I'm very proud of being the part, is like it's not going to be happening inside the crypto to that. But just to like give you the context, is like any industry has to grow, and there are always some darker side which always exist, right? Even today also. Now, coming back to is everything is hype? The answer is no. We are at Spheron. We are building in crypto. We are a proud crypto project, and we have been building for years into this space, and we have not faded away yet because we have been managing our finances properly. We were able to pivot at the right times. We were able to do multiple things. So I think it totally depends on like the teams and everyone, the people who are kind of building and right projects and everything. Now coming back to the role of Spheron into the AI segment, I think Spheron plays a very vital role. It's gonna be playing a very vital role, as I said. Anyone in the crypto, they need to, if you are building a lot of AI use cases, you are going to need a lot of compute, right? One company cannot help you to do that. There's no way a single company can have and own the entire compute. And that's the beauty of the entire compute market, which I love about, right? Essentially, we have to be there. That's one thing. That's what Spheron is going to be there to ensure that everyone who is looking for GPUs, CPUs, or whatever capacity, we are going to help them to get those capacity out of the box. That's one thing. Second thing, now coming back to the innovation, today Spheron, I'm very proud in saying that today Spheron is only project which allows you to programmatically lease out compute at scale from anyone's individual devices, right? So you can go and today you can build and launch fully automated agent, autonomous agent, or whatever agent you call it on Spheron without any question. So essentially you execute transaction on an EVM chain, like on Base, currently we are. So you execute an EVM transaction and you get the compute dot and you do whatever you wish to. It can be done by your agent or it can be done by a human. That's one thing which we are adding as a part, like so that these agents are free to innovate and free to do whatever they wish to. So we are giving the free market for agents to lease out the compute. That's one thing. Second thing is like we have been working on a framework called Skynet XBT framework, which basically works and talks about the more of an autonomous agent and building like how you can launch. And even today it's live. You can go ahead and play around. It aggregates a lot of data points in the real time and give you the answer. So that's the other thing which we do. Then we have SuperNode, which is helping AI companies to bootstrap their compute demands. So all of those things which we have built at Spheron to bring to give the AI world into crypto not to go to Web2 services, but come to Web3 services and use those Web3 companies to power your compute. And we are ensuring that we build all of these native services so that these people should be very happy when they use Web3 company products out there. So that's what we are contributing from the Spheron side.
Gotcha. It makes sense. So to summarize, I guess, for a little bit, in the way that I'm thinking about this. So obviously, I think the big hype with like this AI crypto, at least from like a retail user perspective, is, hey, I want to be able to use an AI model that goes out and executes these trades for me, or it optimizes my yields across all of these chains. it abstracts all that complexity away and it does it for me, so that way I don't have to do it, right? But in order for an AI agent to be able to do those things, it needs an infrastructure level layer to be able to tap into for battery power, essentially, right?
Yeah.
It needs a power to power all of that modeling and all that usage. And so Spheron is building a marketplace where these AI agents and these AI companies can come to be able to purchase that power.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to summarize it, maybe?
Yeah, you did it the right job here.
Okay, beautiful. It really is fascinating. Yeah, especially if you think that, a lot of people think that a lot of the interactions on chain, a lot of the transacting on chain is actually going to be, done by agents in the future and not so much maybe by like your everyday user. If you're a believer in that theory, then, probably your next logical progression as an investor, if you want to invest in like a picks and shovels type business for that business, then it would be something like Spheron, right?
Yeah.
Something like the GPU supply, which is always fascinating. It makes perfect sense. What kind of traction are you guys seeing so far with, obviously what you've built so far? I can go on Spheron right now and see there's a healthy amount of supply, obviously. How are you guys going about bootstrapping, like renting demand or borrowing demand on the borrower side? Are you guys in active talks with, with certain companies in the space? What's the go-to-market strategy there to bootstrap maybe like the other side of the marketplace?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. So essentially, I don't think like Web3 has enough community users who can absorb your supply quite easily. The only thing you have to give them is the product, which works. Okay. When I say which works, it has to work. Like when I go in and I ask it to give it to me this thing, and it should just give it to you that thing, right? It should not overcomplicate or overkill the entire product journey of the user, and don't frustrate them, right? That's something which you have to just work on, and which we have been working on to ensure that happens. So far we have not yet gone to enterprises. We are not yet gone to any of those places, but we are still in a healthy side of demand. And most of our system, like I've been tweeting about it, is like, I think we are among few, even though we have lesser supply, I would also like add on into this one is like, there might be people who might be having more supply and they don't have 100% utilization. But we have a smaller supply, we have 100% utilization. Like we are always hitting a rock bottom every time, like every day. And even today as well as we speak, most of our data center are currently running at around 60%, 70% utilization. And that too, we had to go because it was so much utilized that our system was like going down. It was not able to bear the load. Okay. So what we had to do is like, we had to like curve or save out 20% of that system so that it can handle the buffer size, right? So that's where we are in terms of demand. Okay. And we are not yet into enterprises, and we don't expect to go to enterprises now in the next couple of months. And anyone who tells that they are going for enterprises in being a decentralized systems, for now, they are just fooling the entire community. And I know there are a lot of people, if they hear this entire podcast, they might get pissed off because of this statement. But I think they know it. They already know it because they also know me in person, and they know it. They're not enterprise ready. None of the decentralized systems are enterprise ready. And when we say none of the system are enterprise ready, that basically means, when I say that, I basically mean that those enterprises are coming on chain and bidding an order and getting the compute. Not as a BD team I going and selling my SSH key to somebody else and getting. That's not Web3. That's Web2. Okay. The thing when you do on chain, that's Web3. So if you ask me that, then none of the companies, I can name you, we know everyone, and they know they know us very well. They don't even do any of those on chain stuff on an enterprise level, right? So but we are working towards to make that happen, because enterprises have multiple clauses, terms. For example, a lot of the data centers in different regions in India, you cannot just onboard an Indian data center on a marketplace, because those Indian data centers require a lot of compliances to your end users, right? So you have to bring the compliance for your end user so that whenever they require, you have to just present those data to them. So there are a lot of these things which these companies even don't do. So I would say it's like we are not even there and not even close to that. But where we are close to is that we can tap into 100% demand, which is already like sitting idle into the Web3 space itself. That itself worth more than hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Down the line. So why can't we just focus on that demand, which is easily accessible and tap into? Like, why to just run for a money which is far-fetched? And I don't want to fancy suit people to come into my team now and start selling this GPU to enterprises, which I don't want now. I might need it for, let's say, 1 year and 1 or 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line, but not now. Till the time we have a good amount of Web3 demand, I love to stay here and serve very silently and to all of these people who might be looking for this compute.
Yeah, I think that's a grounded way to go about things for sure. One of the things that I also can't stand in this space is this whole, and not outside of DePIN, this whole, the institutions are coming. We're going to be onboarding, these institutions and X, Y, and Z. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I hope you've been talking to this institution for the last 3 years, because the sales cycle to get an institution into Web3 or it is not easy, right? It is not easy. And so it cracks me up when I see projects that are launched and part of their launch strategy is we're going to be onboarding institutions, and it's just okay. I'll expect to see that then probably in 7 years. So it is refreshing to hear, right? Just ripping the Band-Aid off of that and not let's not pretend that's a goal, but let's focus on the demand that we know that we can capture right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sound way of doing business versus the latter, right? Yeah. And so that makes sense. And there's a big learning curve too, right? That has to be overcome when it comes to onboarding an enterprise. They're currently sourcing their compute in whatever traditional way they've been doing for decades now, or a decade now, and now all of a sudden you come to them and say, hey, no, come to us. We're more efficient. Here, I need to onboard you to this Web3 wallet. You need to get a wallet. I need to show you how to transact and fund that wallet. There's some UX things and some UI things that we've got to fix on the crypto side, I think, before any industry can really any part of crypto can really go and start getting these enterprises. So yeah, anyway, not to go on a little rant there, but couldn't agree more. 100%. Let me pivot over to the supply side for a second, because I am curious to know on the pricing model side of things. Let's say, it's peer-to-peer, obviously. You mentioned utilization, obviously, is near 100%, on the platform. But in your model, so if I'm the compute supplier and I want to contribute my compute to be rented, I am setting the price at that point in time, I assume, right? So I can choose whatever price I want, or how does the UX work for the supply side? Is Spheron going to recommend to me what they think the market price is right now for a certain GPU or a certain CPU? How does that work for the supply side?
Great question. So first thing first is we have been testing out multiple flows, and we are very vocal on both the flows, where we want to allow people to kind of choose their price, and we also want to allow people to opt into let us choose their price. Okay. But we are also working on the multiple ways, which is going to go live once we hit the mainnet, and after mainnet there are 1 month and everything. We are currently working on to publish few more things. So essentially today, how it works, I'll tell you, it's very simple. It's if you become a provider into the network, you can choose your price. We don't choose. So you put your own price. But if you become a Fizz noder, we have two kind of nodes. So one is called data center nodes, which we call providers. And the other is called normal retail grade nodes, which we call Fizz. Okay, Fizz as a fizz in a bottle of Coca or whatever, right? So it's a small part of it, but it adds a lot of value, right? So what we are testing with the Fizz is a dynamic model of fees. Right. What we don't want to test out with the provider for now is not a dynamic model, because providers are data center. They need straightforward payment and all of those things. So we do not want it to complicate their systems. But in the phase, if you might have looked into, is like what happens is like all the order goes via our gateway. Okay, so there's a gateway which is there, and again, this gateway can be run by anyone. It should not be us. It can be run by anyone. So just for disclaimer, so that everyone knows, like we are not centralized company. We are decentralized. So this gateway can anyone run it. They can own it. They can define their logics into that gateway. For now, what we are testing out is a dynamic logic, is where depending on inventory and depending on the depending on the demand, the price changes. It's like more of a booking a flight ticket, right? The later you book, the higher you pay because you have urgency of doing that. Then why can't we capitalize that? Our whole focus is to prolong approach. The one is help the on the demand side users to come early and get the cheapest price, and on the supplier side we want to ensure that as we grow the demand, they should be also able to capitalize their hardware at max. Okay, so that they are happy, our user is happy, like and both the party wins. And if both the party wins, we also win along with them, right? So that's what we are currently working on to kind of like work on the FizzNode side. But it's still under the development. But that's how our pricing been set. Like it can be done by both providers and a gateway runner. But in the after mainnet, when we release that, right, once our mainnet and all of those things will happen, then we will allow this logic to be running inside the provider directly. Like it will be running in your machine, that logic. So that logic won't run anymore on my gateway, so that you start controlling it. But for now, since it's a logic test and everything, we want to run it on our side, where we have control. Okay, because we need to have a lot of locks and all of those things has to come into it. It's a development thing. Once that logic is all set working, we have to just move that logic from that gateway to that system, and then system take care of it. Right? We don't have to like bring a gateway to decide logic. So that's how the pricing is determined in Spheron.
Pair Protocol is the first and only trading platform for narrative trading. Their technology unlocks the ability for anyone to pair trade. For example, if you think ETH will outperform Cardano, you can long ETH ADA in one click with leverage. Or perhaps you think Pepe will continue to outperform Doge. You can long Pepe Doge. Again, all in one transaction. The combinations are endless. Learn more at beta.pair.garden. Gotcha. No, it makes sense. Just had a thought that occurred to me, which I want to ask, just because I don't know. I've been curious about this, but I don't even know if this would be a consideration you guys would have to worry about or not. So, from like a security perspective, so you've got it's a permissionless market, right? So you've got all these entities that are supplying GPU and CPU, on the supply side. Then that power is being rented out. Is there any way that like a malicious actor can take advantage of this? What is going on here? So, for example, if Lazarus Group were to want to supply, GPU or CPU on the supply side, and like, is there a way that they can take advantage of that transfer, that rental going on to whatever entity is renting their GPU or CPU to? Do you understand what I'm saying, or is that not a thing? Okay. I just thought about that.
Got it. So essentially, what you're asking is like, what if somebody from OFAC sanctioned country basically connects their GPU, CPU to the network, and somebody who is not into OFAC sanctioned countries want to access that machine, and they should be able to do it. Okay, so now let's understand this first. Okay. As a user, you have a choice to choose the system where you want to run your systems. So as a freedom of choosing, we don't dictate that anymore. So you have to define where do you want your system. That's one thing. Second thing is, I think the question has to be like, do you guys do the geolocation mapping of those GPUs or CPUs or not? For data centers, for anyone who is very serious builder or anyone who is more security and all of those oriented, they would never go for anything which is public goods anywhere. Like you cannot just build any system which is very secure on a public cloud. It's never advisable and not even been given to a company. So it's a known fact. Like nobody's going to do that. Even if they are doing it, then their entire technical team they have to fire the entire technical team, because either their technical team is not even like capable enough of understanding what is called public cloud and what is called private cloud, right? And private systems. So they should definitely like fire their CTO or hire somebody else into the team to kind of like make the system proper. Now, coming back to data center part. Now, if they go ahead and access the data center in terms of secure, in the data center, that's why I said like providers, they are compliant. Most of the people who become the data center, and they have to go through rigorous checks, which we do from our side, and our system also does it from its side, right? So you can never have a Lazarus group or anything like that coming into the network and providing us a compute. Even if they do so, they will still remain into that lower server grade, which nobody want to use it. And that's one thing. Second thing, on the community cloud side, which is powered by retail and fizzers, it's a public cloud. Like we don't, as I said, we don't expect any private entities to go and play and put their data into those public stuff. If they are doing that, it's their foolishness. We can't do anything. Even if they do it, we have all of those private policies and terms and conditions of usage and everything into the place so that they are aware of it. If they don't know, their compliance team will read it and they will highly warn them not to use it. So we want to like very, very straightforwardly be very clear. We are marketplace. In a marketplace, all the actors are allowed to come in, but as a user, you have a choice to choose the actor. If you choose a malicious actor, it's not our concern; it's your concern. If you want it, but as a protocol, our duty is to give you all the options in a very, very well manner, written ways. Like data center, this is the thing. Like what I just told you is like we don't onboard Indian data center. The reason because they require a lot of compliances. So we are currently working on to bring them those compliances so that people who are looking forward to, let's say, access this Indian data center, they should be able to do it just by going through certain compliances which we have in our own system itself. So all of those things which we have currently like working on, and we are a small team, so it's gonna take some more time to kind of build everything bit by bit. But I would answer your question like this. So like I hope it just cleared out your query.
Yeah. No, it did. Thanks for clarifying that. Well, cool. Well, so we're coming up on the end of our time. It's been fantastic. I learned so much actually about your model and about the DePIN space. Is there anything I didn't cover that you want to mention to the listeners that maybe has got you excited or something coming up for Spheron Network that we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think multiple things. Basically, not you missed because it's not public yet, so you don't know about all those things. So there are multiple things which is going to be happening now down the line. The one thing which we are going to be opening is that we are making free for anyone to become Fizz node into the network. Today there is a small charge, which basically we have introduced, and the reason we have introduced is that we were like a massive influx of people like wanted to join the Fizz node. And us, we were like having like lack of servers to kind of handle those loads. So we kind of like put that free so that the people like from Web2 world, they don't just join in because they need to come to the Web3 to become the part of it. So which is tough for anyone on that world to kind of become the part of it. So now we are launching the entire full version of it where anyone around the globe, no matter if you are Web2 or Web3, doesn't matter, you can connect your system to Spheron and become the part of it. That's one thing. And become the part of this global movement of building the world's largest data center, which is powered by this community, right? That's one thing which is going to be happening. The second thing which is going to be happening is that we are going to be launching something very cool soon, which is going to be like allowing anyone to become. So today there is only one way to become the part of the Spheron is either you provide a compute or you lease out compute. There's no other way. Okay. But what if there is somebody who is not into compute leasing, but he still wants to, or he or she, or like anyone in the world wants to become the part of the Spheron ecosystem. So we are currently working on products of ecosystem. Essentially, it's like I cannot manufacture cloth. So should I like not wear cloth? You are wearing clothes, right? So why you should not? Because you are. What if I just stitch it and sell you? So the same way we are launching multiple products. For example, there is a Relix AI which is coming into picture, which is going to be going live. It basically allows you to create videos utilizing all of these GPUs which are connected to our network, and it gives you this 2.0 grade high quality videos which you can put it on social media and showcase on whatever you want to do that with that. That's one thing which is coming out. So it will allow people to kind of like anyone to become the part of a network by using the products. Second is Supernodes, which is already live, but again, it's for anyone who wants to become the part of some other community, but they don't have technical expertise of becoming that. So we are making them easier for them to just go to Supernodes, click on some buttons, and then you not only just become the part of Spheron ecosystem, but you can also like become part of other communities as well, who we are supporting to bootstrap their compute, GPU supply side, and all of those stuff. The third, which we are working on and which is also going to be going live with Skynet. So we are going to be launching base Skynet. We are going to be launching mode Skynet. We are going to be launching multiple Skynet for different ecosystems. What they are going to be is like very, very targeted to niche people who are into DeFi and other use cases to find out, hey, like today, if I ask you today is like, tell me the best yield on Arbitrum, I can bet you can't tell me in the next 2 minutes, right? Or even next 1 minute. You are going to take at least 15 minutes, 10 minutes to even do that analysis. And that too, you won't be accurate enough. What Skynet basically will do, it will find you the best within a minute. So you don't have to like do a lot of research. So we are just solving that problem with the Skynet. And again, it's a part of ecosystem product. So if you use any of these things, you are the part of Spheron. So essentially, we are not just going to be just selling the GPUs, which is the raw cotton. We are going to be selling you the t-shirts, the hoodies, the nice sneakers, the socks, which you can use it. But again, it's all going to be made up of cotton, which is, again, in our case, it's GPU of Spheron. So that's what is going to be coming next. And then, of course, after that, we have token and all everything, which is also aligned, which will also come live.
Yeah. So two things there, actually, I want to double click on before we go then. So for the Skynet product, I'm assuming not a public good then. I'm assuming you guys will charge a fee
Yes.
or maybe, tie it back to the token.
Whatever you basically pay us, we just pay that to our compute providers. So that's how it works.
Yep.
So essentially, because the reason you cannot use it because you don't know how to use that compute. So we have built that application so that you can use that compute. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's that way, right? It's this pen, right? So you don't know how to fill in the ink and everything. So that's the reason they have built this pen and they are given to you and you are able to write it. So that's what we want to do it for the end customers for our side. So we're able to bring more demand on this compute by providing all of these niche use cases to our end customers. And beneath the line, everything is Spheron, right? There's nothing which is out of Spheron. So that's what Skynet basically does it.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Actually, I like the idea of you guys kind of creating demand for the supply. That you guys are already kind of gathering on the other side of the marketplace. So I like the idea of you creating that.
So the reason that idea basically came into the picture is like there is a theory of like become the user of your own product first. Like eat the food what you create.
Yep.
And if you are not able to eat that food what you create, then don't sell it. It's as simple. So we follow that theory at Spheron. Is like whatever we are building, we are not just building for the world. We are building for ourselves also first, and we are eating that first, so that we know how bad it can go and how good it can be.
Yep. No, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a good business strategy. The second thing was the token, right? So one thing I forgot to ask you about was the token. I think you mentioned it a little bit, when we were talking about some of the other mechanisms of the network. But let's talk about the token really quick and like what's the utility of the token? How are you guys going to drive value back to the token and kind of keep that at the forefront of the ecosystem? Talk about that a little bit.
So multiple ways. The one is that you cannot just become the part of the network. So actually Spheron has been designed with a lot of real world working systems. If you know Uber, if you know Airbnb or any one of these systems, how their marketplaces were designed is like they were initially able to give out the incentive to the people to become the part of the Uber model or become the driver there and start riding, right? Taking and accepting the orders. The same way we also have. But in our case, since it's all digital, it's very hard to validate and verify who is into this for a game and who is into this for malicious activities. How do you identify that? And that's where crypto economic incentives and economics design come into the picture, where you can bring the slashing and staking and all of those mechanisms to bring the right people in and throw the wrong people out, right? So that's where one part where the Spheron token basically going to be playing a very vital role. The second is the option of like utilizing Spheron token as a payment token, where we want to push it as much as possible. And again, as I said, like due to jurisdiction clauses, we cannot just push it like that. So we have to just work towards that to ensure that Spheron token becomes that global token for Spheron compute, and you can use it for payment without paying any kind of commission to us. Like you pay zero commission and you go ahead and use the compute. The other thing is that since it's going to be the on-chain revenue and all of those things are already there and present, we'll be using the buyback mechanism, which we have already learned from different companies. For example, BNB is just a very successful case. If you're able to drive good demand, a buyback can really add a lot of stability into your token. And also not only stability, I think it's how I look at buybacks are mostly like you raise the community fund now and you want to give the community money back. That's what buyback basically means. Right. And once you become billions and billions of dollars, one duty becomes like you start giving back your community, whatever you have lended it from them. And then the fund which they have given to you, right? That's the other mechanism which we already have. And then there are tons of things like now you can build liquidity pool around these or let's say providers. Let's say I am a provider, I want to raise additional capital to expand my data center capacity. I should be able to go ahead and use that and pool the fund into Spheron, get it staked and utilize that staking APR and everything, and then like funnel it back to building more data center capacity and all of those stuff. So there are a lot of this angle of financial incentive and financial economics which we have to also introduce. But initially, it's going to be very simple, and we love simplicity at Spheron, and we just want to first keep it very simple. Is that you need to have the token to become the part of network, and that's one thing which is going to be there. Then slowly become the de facto payment model. Slowly enable the financial systems for people to kind of expand their compute capacities and use that finances to finance further extending their business models. So that's how the Spheron token is going to be playing into the.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. Love it. And particularly too, just real quick on the buyback bit of it, right? Obviously not financial advice here, but if you look at the, you brought up BNB, I think Aave is another example of this now. GMX, you mentioned as well. If you have a successful business model and you've got a successful product that users want to use in a bear market, in a bull market, and really any condition, and you've got that product market fit, and you've got the fees to back up the buybacks and make it significant, it really does make a difference. Like if you look at BNB's strength versus like Bitcoin versus like ETH over the course of the last couple of years, maybe not Bitcoin in certain periods of time, but look at BNB compared to like any other altcoin out there, and it really does outperform, right? And it's because of the underlying buyback mechanism, and that business model that they've kind of like kept BNB at the forefront of the ecosystem. And I know a lot of people like to criticize Binance and some of these other places, and rightfully so for certain things. But that's one thing they've done extremely well. And so I personally like when I see that's kind of like built into the tokenomics or the economic model, is starting to think about enabling that when it makes sense. So definitely something to keep an eye on, if you're listening to this. Obviously, again, not financial advice, just something that I've noticed over my years in crypto. This has been great, Prashant. Really, really appreciate your time. Probably got to wrap here, but it's been fantastic talking with you. And, for anybody listening, take a look at Alia research. We are going to have quite a bit of content coming out on Spheron, so you can kind of analyze, Spheron network. What are some of the opportunities, from a user perspective, or a GPU and CPU supply perspective. So definitely, take a look at that body of work as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kirk, again for having me here. Take care.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see everybody on the next episode.